Happy Taco Thursday. Happy Taco Thursday. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Aaron B. And we got a special guest. Well, he's basically family on this show. He's been on here multiple times bringing that fire. He's the host of Sunday Sports Rush and Corpus Christi. I almost said San Antonio. We were just talking about San Antonio.
Oh, good.
Yeah, on 1440 AM in
Yes, sir.
Corpus Christi. So
That's
my
right.
guy James Espinosa. How's it going, James?
Hey, what's good, Aaron? Hey, life is great, man. Everything's pretty solid. You know what I mean? We are in the thick of draft season, in the
Yeah.
thick of Cowboys off season. And I appreciate you having me on your show. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And yeah, man, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. I've been on your show a few times. I think I've been on your show. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head the exact numbers, but I know every single year for at least the past 4 years, we've
Yeah.
done a show around draft time where we're kind of previewing the draft. We're kind of talking free agency and all that.
Yeah.
So, hey, you know what? Let's run it back and let's do it, man. I'm glad to be here.
I appreciate it. And I can't believe it's already been 4 years. It went by fast.
It really has, man. It really has since yeah, I mean, I remember, doing the mock draft show with you, and I
Yeah.
remember going through my mock. You went through your mock. Yeah, it's been about 4 years, my guy. It really has. Time does fly, though. But hey,
Yeah.
let's get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first topic I got for today is this is Stephen Jones said it's selective aggressive free agency, which is I'm gonna say it's a lot better than all in like last year. Because
Yes.
all in was a bunch of BS and it was basically nothing. You were almost like, dang, we're gonna get into UFL after the draft. And this year, they actually have been aggressive. Maybe not at the same level that we been looking for. I can just pop that up right now.
Oh, sure thing. Hey, look at you, man, with the fancy graphics and everything. I like it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get better at it.
Hey,
Appreciate
it looks good,
you.
bro.
Appreciate you. So which out of these free agencies, out of these free agents, were you excited that we got? I know we got a lot of former first rounders on here.
Yeah, so we talked about, actually we had a segment on this on my Sunday Sports Rush show, which you mentioned off the top, right? Me and my co-host, we went through some of the free agents, and look, this is the thing that I said, right? The Cowboys didn't exactly go shopping at a name brand store, right? They kind of went shopping at Dollar General, which is fine.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with shopping at DG. Best believe me, I can still get some good snacks and some good household items at Dollar
same.
General, right? And that's what I feel like this is a little bit. But when people criticize the Cowboys for lack of free agent signings like they did last year, and then when people are still criticizing the Cowboys for the free agent signings that they had this year, my thinking is, well, what do you want, right? You want the splashy name, you want the home run hitters, right? You would have liked a Cooper Cup. You would have liked those type of free agent signings. But what the Cowboys were able to do, Aaron, they added some significant depth to this roster that they didn't necessarily have last year. I honestly have really no issues with any of the signings, but you want to know my favorite signing out of them all?
Mhm.
Number one, I really do like Jack Sanborn, the
Same.
linebacker they brought in from Chicago. He's going to be a tackling machine. He's going to be a see ball, hit ball carrier type of linebacker. I love that signing. I think he'll be on the field quite a bit under the Eberflus defense. Another guy who I really am curious about is Kenneth Murray.
Yeah,
And look, Titans fans have been out there talking. I can't believe the Cowboys gave us this for Murray. Y'all guys can have Murray, this and that. Kenneth Murray had 90 plus tackles last year. Kenneth Murray had 14 games played, started. That's a player, man. You're getting 90 plus tackles in the league at linebacker position. You put him in this Eberflus defense. He's another guy who can attack the ball, go downhill, go sideline to sideline. And he also has some pass rushing element from the linebacking position as well. I'm pretty excited about the Kenneth Murray acquisition, the Jack Sanborn acquisition. And then lastly, if I got to give you a top three, I'm excited they brought back Dante Fowler. 10 and a
yeah,
half
that's
sacks last year with the Commanders. And whenever he was with the Cowboys, he was getting some significant pass rush. Now that DeMarcus Lawrence is gone, you're going to need guys in waves. And Dante Fowler being in the mix, there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all. And I'm gonna go back to the one you're talking about, Kenneth Murray. I actually talked to one of my guys, Mike Patton, who covers the Tennessee Titans. He was talking. This is what he put on him. He's a read and react guy. While it slows down, but not necessarily great in pass coverage. But he's a man up on anyone. He shows a little bit of pass coverage. He does a little bit of spotty, but overall, he's a good linebacker. I think you'll see him in the weak side because he brought up some things. He's a sideline to sideline type of guy, and he'd be a good rotational piece or a starter until we get to Marvin Overshawn. So I like the Kenneth Murray. And then Jack Sanborn, he's that old school type of thumper linebacker you just brought
Yeah.
up. I was kind of hoping that the Cowboys would get him because I know he has that connection with Eberflus. And then, what are your thoughts on like Javonte Williams at running back?
So the Javonte Williams at running back, and then of course later on in the week they bring in Miles Sanders, right?
Yeah,
You lose Rico Dowdle. He goes to Carolina on a 1 year deal. Good for Rico. I hope he does well. I enjoyed Rico when he was getting significant carries last year with the Cowboys. When the Cowboys really started to feature Rico, the running game looked pretty good, and Rico did have 1,000 yards. And for what it's worth, right? He was pretty solid for the Cowboys. Now to Javonte Williams, we know the injury history. We know what happened his rookie season. He's played 2 consecutive years since then, and he's a pretty solid back. I'm not going to say he's a game-changing back,
yeah,
but asking him to be your running back number 2, asking him to be your running back 3, asking him to be a part of a backfield that's going to split reps, then yeah, I think I like that pick up for the Cowboys. I think there's some potential there. I think the ceiling is still a little bit high with Javonte Williams. I don't think we've seen his best running yet. So I'm curious to see how he's able to fit in with the Brian Schottenheimer offense, Aaron, who traditionally speaking, he's a guy who likes to run the ball. He likes to establish the run, set up the pass. He's very old school, just like his father, Marty Schottenheimer, with shoddy ball, Schottenheimer ball, run, pass, run, pass. Now, hopefully it's not that predictable like
I hope
the
not.
way it was back then, because that's what got his father in trouble a lot of times is the predictability of his play calling. But I like Javonte Williams. I like Miles Sanders also because Miles Sanders he's still got a little bit of juice left in those legs. So 2 guys right there that could be pretty solid in a running back room. But I feel that the Cowboys still need to address running back at some point, and I'm hoping that they're able to do that in the draft within the first 3 to 4 picks that they have.
Yeah, I agree because you can't just be comfortable like, oh, we could maybe get the best out of Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders was in Carolina, so like you said, they're good at RB2 and RB3, but get an RB1. This is the best draft to get a running back. You can almost wait until third round. I don't want to go into the fifth round. That's kind of pushing it because that's
Yeah,
when people are going to want running backs, and then we're kind of be looking at RB2s. I'm like, the latest I want a running back is like RB3. I don't want to jump the gun because we're gonna do our little mock draft in a little bit,
exactly. Yeah, but
but
I feel you right there. I think if you go past, like you said, man, once you start getting into rounds 4 and rounds 5, especially round 5, I'm not real
yeah,
comfortable with that being your running back 1. You know what I mean?
yeah. Mhm.
So then essentially you're stuck with a bunch of running back 2s, trying to see who's going to win the majority of the carries. Because at the end of the day, somebody's got to carry the mail.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to carry that majority of the load. So I'm totally in agreement with you on that.
Yeah, like you said, Schottenheimer loves to run the ball. He's like his dad. Hopefully, he adds more nuances to his offense because
Yes.
we can't be too predictable. Where we could just sit on the couch drinking a beer, saying, "Oh, they're gonna run the ball on this play." Like,
Yeah, exactly. And as well as I know, and everybody out here who's going to be watching or listening to the show, the predictability of the Cowboys offense has been something that's been troublesome
yeah,
within the past few years. Under Mike McCarthy's reign, it got a little bit troublesome, and then under Kellen Moore, when Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator. Hell, even going back to the Scott Linehan days, right?
oh,
I'm sure you remember those Scott
oh,
Linehan days. Those offenses, albeit they put up some points, but they could get stagnant. They can get very stagnant.
yeah, that's some bad flashbacks right there. I'm not even.
I didn't think
Uh,
he was going to throw out a Scott Linehan reference today, but here we are.
Hey, when you think about when it was rough, that was during the rough times where they dropped some points, but you're like, this is the most dullest offense you can come up with.
Yeah, without a doubt, man.
Yeah,
Those Lenahan days, there were some good days, but there was a lot of what the hell's going on type of days.
yeah, that's the best to call it, cause man. Well, let's get it. And then our next subject is my when it comes to Micah Parsons getting signed. That's one of the things that the Cowboys have been lingering. They re-signed Osa, they re-signed the special team guys and everybody else. But the main guy they haven't signed is Micah Parsons. Is it a Micah Parsons thing because he has a podcast and he doesn't go to voluntary workouts, or is it a Dallas Cowboy thing where they're just waiting and lingering, like, we'll do it when we want to, type of thing?
Man, that is probably the question of the day because just this past week, Calvin Watkins, reporter up in Dallas, I believe for the Dallas Morning News, he dropped an article stating that it might be a Micah problem and not a Cowboys problem. And what you alluded to is is Micah Parsons, with all the extracurriculars he does outside of the football field, what Demarcus Lawrence called him out for last week on Twitter when
Yeah,
D Law and Micah were going at it, which was absolutely blowing my mind. And man, me personally, I've kind of grown to accept Micah Parsons being the podcaster, being
yeah.
very out there and accessible, and one that's going to give his opinion no matter what. I actually kind of respect that. You know what I mean? He's willing to speak his mind. He's willing to say what it is. I'd hope that it's not a Micah problem. I hope there's not anything within that locker room where he's not showing up to practices on time, he's late to meetings. I hope that's not the case. Because if that is the case, and the Dallas Cowboys are seriously considering, well, maybe we do have to get rid of him. Maybe if we flip him right now, we can bring back a few picks for upcoming drafts, right? Or bring back a couple players that can help us in the immediate plus picks. I hope it's not that, Aaron. I think this is more of the Dallas Cowboys continually dragging their feet
Yeah,
and just not being good at reading the market and not being good at getting ahead of these contracts. How many times have we sat here and talked about Dallas Cowboys homegrown players who have, not gotten their contract in time? And then you continually see other teams with their star players at certain positions get the contracts, reset the market, and thus the Cowboys have to essentially pay more money just to keep their own guys. We've seen it too many times to count. So I've got a feeling that this is more of a Dallas Cowboys, Jerry and Stephen Jones standard operating procedure where, you know what, man, we'll be fine. We're going to rely on deadlines. We'll wait this out. Michael will get his money eventually. And I just don't get that type of thinking that they have, Aaron.
yeah. I don't get it at all. And it's almost you feel like it's been every year they do that. It's like they like to add the drama. They did it with last year with CD, Dak. They exceeded the expectation. Just sign these guys where you can get them cheaper instead of spending that 5 or 10 million that you have to pay for them. You could use that to get better players on this team. But they're like they just like you said, they're dragging their feet, waiting to the last minute. Yes, he does have a podcast and all the thing, but you've seen when he was out for those few weeks how the
Mm-hmm.
defense was, but when he got it back in there, you've seen how the energy was on that defense, where they looked like a middle defense because before then they were kind of looking like a Mike Nolan-ish type of defense
Yeah,
without him.
it was pretty rough without Micah for that stretch last season. But from weeks 11 through 17, when he did come back, or 10 through 17,
Yeah,
that defense really stepped up their game, and they started becoming one of the top defenses in pass rush win rate and pressures on quarterbacks and even sacks. And it opened things up for some guys in the middle. Like it opened things up for Osa to get a couple of sacks here and there. It opened things up for other guys to make plays. When Micah's on the field, this team is noticeably better. He is that guy. He is the star of the defense now. And the question going forward that's going to need to be answered is he just going to be the star of the defense, which is fine, make all the plays you want every time you hit the football field, or is Micah going to accept that leadership role that a DeMarcus Lawrence had and be that guy who's going to rally the troops, be that guy who's going to, do the extra workouts, who's going to show up a little early, who's going to go to mini camps when they're not mandatory. Is he going to be that guy? I think that's one of the most important questions going forward with Micah Parsons.
Yeah, actually brought up a good point. I remember seeing a tweet. I think it was from Boss Cowboy. Just because you're the superstar player, it doesn't mean you should be the captain or something like in that factor.
Exactly. And yeah, man. I mean, I saw that tweet also, and that's true. And that's a facet in everyday life, right? Think
Yeah,
about any work environment you might be in. The best employee who's producing the most, who's making the most money, who's whatever it might be,
yeah,
they're not necessarily the best leader. They might not know how to speak to people and know how to massage certain egos at the workplace or in the locker room. So Micah, we know he's a hell of a player. We know he's an all pro. We know he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory, but will he be willing to step up and be that man in the locker room now that D-Law's gone, now that Jordan Lewis is gone? Because Jordan Lewis was
yeah,
another key cog in that defensive room, a leader and a veteran of this team who had been there for a long time. Him and D-Law both gone. Somebody's going to need to step up in that role.
yeah. Because they need a captain on that defense. Because I'm still trying to figure who's the captain of the defense. On the offense, you can say Dak.
Yeah.
That's your leader. But on the defense, you got a lot of talent on that defensive side. But you're like, okay, who's going to be the captain of that defense? Who has those tangibles to be the captain of the defense? Because I'm still trying to figure that out right
And maybe
now.
it's a guy like Osa Odigizua who
Yeah,
might step up and be a captain of that defense, right? He's
yeah,
starting to become a veteran of this defense. I mean,
yeah.
we know Trayvon Diggs has been here for a while, right? Maybe it's going to be Trayvon who steps up a little bit. Maybe a Deron Bland. I mean,
I can see that.
some of these guys who have been here for a few years already, it's going to be one of their times or a couple of those guys it's going to take to rally the defense when times are down and make sure that everybody's putting in the work as they should. So just another interesting subplot to an already interesting Dallas Cowboys offseason. Something to monitor out there. Something to
Okay.
monitor.
Yeah, for sure. And well, when it comes, you brought up some guys that could be possible captains. Deron Bland's an interesting one to me. He's kind of the more low key type of guy, but I could see him as possibly a captain. Also, would be another one. But yeah, that
And you know what, man? It might even, I'm not trying to say it might be one of the new guys, but a Jack Sanborn type might come
oh
in,
yeah,
and he knows the Eberflus defense like the back of his hand, right? He's played for the man. He's been out there at linebacker for him. He might be the play caller on the field for the defense, right? He might be the
yeah,
green dot on the defense, just because of the familiarity with the Eberflus system. So you never know, man. It could be one of the new guys like that who comes in and kind of establishes himself or, just kind of sets a tone for this Cowboys team.
yeah. And he could, yeah, like you said, he could be kind of more that Eric Kendrick role type of guy on the defense, and that'd be perfect to have your middle linebacker being your captain of the team. Or one guy I just thought about, Maris Lufau could be another guy.
Yeah. And you know what, man? Lou Fowl, he's exciting.
Yeah, he
The
is.
prospects of him and his potential, it makes me excited for what's to come because we saw a lot of flashes last year. We saw, especially towards the back half of the season, when he was required to play a little bit more due to, various injuries on the field.
Yeah,
I mean, we saw him, man. He was out there flying around. He was making tackles, and he was pretty aggressive. I enjoyed watching Marist a lot, and I enjoyed watching his growth from week 1 all the way to week 17. So that's another player that I think Cowboys fans can be excited about. I know Overshawn's going to be out, but
yeah,
he's a guy in that linebacking core. If he can continue his upward trajectory, could help this linebacking core be a little bit more solidified with the absence of Overshawn.
yeah, absolutely. So getting into our last part of this show, it's been going pretty fast, but we're gonna do we have our own personal mock 3 round mock draft. I'm gonna let you go first. You're the guest of the show. Basically, you're family of the show. We're gonna say that for now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There we
So
go.
so who do you got in the first round?
Okay, so I've ran a couple of mock scenarios before. I've done 2 mock drafts on my Sunday Sports Rush show. Just 3-round mocks,
Yeah,
nothing crazy. I'm not getting wild with them, just 3
I get you.
rounds. And the one person who I keep on landing on when it comes to pick number 12, and he's been there several times that I've done these, Aaron. I am a big fan of wide receiver Tetaroa McMillan, T-Mac from the University of Arizona. I'm super high on this kid. I'm excited. If he's there at 12, I think the Cowboys would have to pull the trigger. Of course, depends on who's going to be there opposite of him, right? There's been scenarios where I've ran mock drafts and it's Genty and Tet,
Yeah,
both available. And in this mock draft that I ran, that was the situation. It was Tet or Genty. And my guys on my show, they kind of crapped on me for this, but I took Tetaroa McMillan over Genty. I know that's going to be a little bit crazy to some Cowboys fans to hear, but let me put you on some game real quick. All right. I took Tet over Genty because I feel that the wide receiver core outside of CeeDee Lamb, that thing is in desperate need
it
of
is.
another playmaker. We saw what it was whenever CD was the hyper focus and teams started to kind of take CD away a little bit, albeit CD had an amazing type of season, right? One of the best he's ever had. But it was difficult when guys like Tolbert, when Cooks, when Cavante Turpin and company are struggling to get open. And are we sure that Jalen Tolbert's going to be wide receiver number 2? He's had a couple of seasons to prove himself, right? I mean, he's
Yeah,
getting better, but I feel that he could be more of a 3. I think
I
the
agree.
Cowboys, to have this offense going, I really do feel that Tetaroa McMillan could be the guy at 12 to put this thing a little bit over the top. And I'm going to get to a running back, but it's going to be a little bit later on. That's the reason why I'm taking Tet at 12.
I don't hate that pick at all. And I don't, when you brought up, like, I know a lot of people saying you got to pick Genty over McMillan, but you brought up some great points. Like we were saying, the running back in this draft, it runs deep. You can wait into that second and third, but getting the receiver, because we all been wanting that big play receiver. And Tech kind of got that Mike Evans type of, T. Higgins type of play style. He's a long
Yeah.
strider, get separation. He can run for extra yards. And it's not 50-50 ball. It's like 70-20. He could grab the ball from here,
Yep.
behind his back. There's some stuff like that. I'm not just over exaggerating. There's film about where he can catch that ball. He's like 6'5", about 219 pounds.
Yeah.
He's basically a point guard, NBA point guard out there catching the ball in all types of angles.
And he's pretty good, like you mentioned, right? You mentioned all the qualities that he has. Um, he's pretty good in the middle of the field too, man. Like
Yeah,
he's a high when a ball's going to be contested, he's coming down with it. That catch radius is pretty ridiculous. And
it is.
another thing that the Cowboys kind of struggled with last year, and what they've perennially struggled with, is red zone production. This guy could be a massive red zone target that can open things up for everybody else, can open things up just a little bit for CeeDee Lamb, can open things up for Tolbert and company and Turpin, who are probably going to be running underneath, right? Opens it up for Ferg at tight end or whoever they're going to have in those big red zone sets. I think it opens up the offense, and I think a guy like Brian Schottenheimer could have some fun with Tet. So that's my pick at 12.
I absolutely agree. So who do you got in the second round?
So in the second round, I went with defensive line
Okay.
and more of the interior defensive line here. Okay. I decided to go because with Eberflus's defense, you need a strong DT that's going to anchor that middle. Yes, they brought back Osa. Fine and dandy. We love that. But you still got Mozzie to work with, right? And Mozzie did show a little bit. To me, Mozzie played a lot better towards the end of the season, and we saw a lot more flashes from Mozzie that I think a lot of people don't want to give credit to. They think Mozzie's a bust already. I think Mozzie's going to be a great rotational defensive lineman in that middle, right? Will he be an
Yeah.
all-pro? Time will tell. But for what he can be right now, he's going to be a good rotational defensive player. But who I decided to go with, I went with defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman from Ohio State, Tyleik Williams at
Like
44.
that one.
So I went Tyleik. That guy he's a dog down there.
Yeah.
And we saw him play. You know, we saw him through this whole playoff run. We saw
Yeah.
what he's able to do down there. Type of guy who could shed off a block. He's good against the run. He can add just a little bit of a little bit of interior presence. I think a strong DT down there to go alongside Osa or be in rotation down there amongst the masses at pick 44, Tyleik Williams, Ohio State.
Yeah, that's a terrific run stopper having there. And like you said, he could be in a good rotation with him and Mozzie. I think the reason why a lot of people, like you said, Mozzie was already labeled a bust. He could have a really good game. They're like, he's still a bust. But I don't think a lot of people realize sometimes defensive linemen takes them a little while to get in there because they're playing against some of the top offensive line in the NFL. And a lot of these guys are veterans that have been in the game for 10 years. And most of these defensive tackles, they only have like a couple of moves how to get away from offensive linemen when they get in there because some of them, not everybody's gonna be an Aaron Donald.
Of course not. Of course not.
That's
right?
once in a million.
Yeah, unrealistic expectations if you think Mozzie Smith should be what Aaron Donald was in his career. And I think that Cowboys fans we got to readjust how we look at Mozzie Smith. Okay, kind of temper or lower some of the expectations, right? We've seen what he is. And we've seen what he is, and you just got to realize this is going to be guys going to make some plays here and there. I don't think he's going to be a game wrecker per se, but if you just kind of temper the expectations and lower them a little bit, in my opinion, you'll start to appreciate a little bit more what Mozzie Smith can be and what he's doing. Yeah. And he's gotten better, and we'll see what Eberflus can unlock with him going forward.
Yeah, and the best thing about Eberflus, he keeps his defenses simple. And he's a one gap defense, so he's gonna have him to follow his gap and just contain that middle, so the linebackers can run through.
But, yeah, exactly, man. So Tyleik Williams, I hope it happens. We'll see.
That'd be a good addition. So who do you have in the final in the third round?
So in the third round at pick 76, I was a little bit patient here, and I was hoping that I wasn't going to get burned with running back, because I skipped over Genty for Tet at 12. Well, at 76 in my mock draft scenario, it just so happened that another Ohio State running back was there sitting at 76.
Let's go.
Come on down, Quinshon Judkins.
I like that one.
Running back, Ohio State. You are now a Dallas Cowboy. So in that scenario, it's Judkins. He's going to be toting the rock for the Schottenheimer and Clayton Adams offense. And I think that would be pretty enticing right there if the Cowboys were to land Judkins at 76.
Yeah, I like that draft. And I'm just going to go through it quick with my draft. So
yeah, go ahead, man. Do your thing. I got some time. Do your thing.
Okay, yeah, I'm just disrespecting your time. But on wide receiver, I want Micah Parsons out of Ohio State, who's a savvy route runner, has been a wide receiver too for the longest there. He was behind JSN and Jeremiah Smith this year. And he's always been like that 800 to 1,000-yard type of receiver. And one thing Schottenheimer will love to have him on this team, he's a really good run blocker. And like I said, he's a solid route runner. He could play in the slot, or he could play in the at Z. I think that'd be a good rotation. He's been a wide receiver too,
and he has trusty hands as well.
Yeah,
he's like an old reliable, right? He was at Ohio State for what seemed like quite a long time. Yeah, and man, you know what? I vibe with that pick as well. Ibuka was one of my favorite guys to watch, especially in these last couple of seasons with Ohio State.
Yeah, he's I'd say he's one of the safest players you could draft in this draft. Like you said, he's a reliable. He's like all reliable.
Yeah.
For the longest we had Jason Witten, I think Emeka Ibuka could be that guy for us, being that all reliable guy for us for 8 to 10 years.
Let me ask you a quick question before you get to your next selection. So I saw NFL.com dropped a mock this past week, right? And I forgot who exactly it was who dropped this mock draft, but they had Matthew Golden to the Cowboys at pick number 12. What do you think about that idea? It was actually Daniel Jeremiah of NFL.com who mocked Matthew Golden to the Cowboys at pick number 12. What's your thoughts on that possibility?
That's a solid possibility. The only knock I have on Golden is like the production where at Texas is really good. Houston was solid, but
Mhm.
he's another good route runner, and he also brings ability in the return game as well.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't hate that pick at all. He could play in the slot, he could play in the Z, and and a little bit of the X. But I know he's not the biggest guy, but he
Yeah.
showed that he can make big plays. He's been playing in the SEC last year. We were thinking he was gonna be wide receiver 2 at with Texas, but he ended up being wide receiver 1, and Isaiah Bond kind of went into that role as wide receiver 2. It's
Yeah,
kind of crazy.
a lot of people had Bond as the guy who was going to be where Matthew Golden is at now, as the top receiver coming out of Texas. But if it was Golden, I mean, I'm not going to be upset at that. I think he's
Oh,
going to be
not at all.
quality. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that because I saw Matthew Golden being mocked to the Cowboys, and that was the first time I had ever seen him being mocked by somebody in the NFL, the big NFL media types. So, and those guys like Daniel Jeremiah and them, they hear those whispers out there, right? So I
Yeah,
wonder if the Cowboys do have a fancy for Matthew Golden. I guess time will tell.
yeah. I think wide receiver definitely going to be on the top of the tier list when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. Hopefully,
Okay.
they don't draw us a wild card or nothing
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
Yeah, my heart can't take a wild card this year,
No,
but
let's just come on. Let's get who they have to get.
yeah, absolutely. So in my second round, I went with Maxwell Harrison, who could be our corner at nickel. He ran was it a sub 4.3 in the combine. But the thing what I think he could be a good nickel. He's a playmaker. He has good overall length. He's 5'11, about 186. He has good
Okay.
instinct, football IQ, and he's explosive. And one of the main things you look for a nickel, he has that short area quickness. I know he had an injury in the early in the year, but he came back and made big plays for the Kentucky Wildcats. No, he's not. He's not a what's it called, Kelvin Joseph. They're two
Yeah.
different. I know a lot of people, a lot of Cowboy fans, when they see a helmet, they're like, we're getting Kelvin Joseph, we're getting Taco Charlton." No, watch
Yeah.
the film.
A lot of Cowboys fans will, look at the sins of the past and slight a
Yeah,
player if they come from the same school, which look, man, come on. If you can't be thinking like that, each prospect is their own prospect,
yeah,
right? Doesn't if they come from the same school, so be it.
yeah,
Judge the prospects as they come, So you got Maxwell Harrison, right?
yeah,
Man, that'd be an intriguing pick considering where this cornerback room is right now. It's bland. Trayvon Diggs, I mean, there's word out there he might not be back for quite a bit.
mhm,
Probably going to miss training camp. He might not be back towards who knows, sometime in the maybe possibly in the middle of the season with the injury that he had last year. So you got Bland, you lose Jordan Lewis, you bring in Kaiir Elam
mhm,
in a trade with Buffalo. I
yeah,
mean, the cornerback room is looking pretty bare, and cornerback should be something that the Cowboys address here, either in free agency, which there's still a couple of veteran cornerbacks out there. I believe Stephen Gilmore is still out there. Stephon Gilmore
yeah,
is still out there. So I mean, I don't know. A drafting a cornerback would be nice, and I'm with you on that. But the Cowboys they have to do something to get this room cooking again.
yeah, yeah. You need to fill up that cornerback room, especially in our division where you got a lot of these plethora receivers you got to have against. So you got to draft the corner or bring back Gilmore. I feel like Gilmore wouldn't be expensive, especially this part in the free agency. And he grew up a Cowboy fan. He said that when he first got here. I think it's just pick up the phone if you're not going to draft one. To be honest with you, but in the third round, I got it's from a familiar face with offensive line Connor Riley, and that's DJ Giddens out of Kansas State, who I watched a
Okay.
little. He also brings value in the receiving game as well. He had over 500 yards this year, And one of the things you see, he's a patient visual runner. You think he's gonna run through the A gap. Next thing you know, at the last quick second, he's running through that B gap and running for an extra 10 yards. He has good body control. Needs to improve into like his pass protection, but he's not the most explosive runner. But you've seen in the combine, just take a little tidbits from that. He ran a sub 4.5, but I think he could be a valuable running back to this team as just being a patient, shifty runner who can break tackles and brings a little physicality to this as a runner as well. He's 6 foot, about 215 pounds, so he's a good sized running back. So
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm looking at his measurables right now, and yeah, this is a much bigger running back than you're accustomed to seeing. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So you're right. The physicality could be there. Could be like a thunder and lightning situation with him and maybe Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams, right? With those
yeah,
guys in the fold. So, and looking at his numbers from Kansas State, he had over 1,300 yards rushing last year, averaged 6.6 yards per
yeah,
carry on 205 carries. That is quite outstanding, right? You know, the Big 12, you don't normally think of the Big 12 as a power running league, right? You think
yeah,
of them tossing the ball around the yard, which they do quite greatly. But to put up numbers like that, that's still impressive no matter what. And Kansas State, I mean, they're renowned for having solidified running games and big hosses up front that are gonna do some damage. So hey, DJ Giddens, that's a good name right there. I like that one. I hadn't really thought about him as a possibility in round 3, but so be it if he's there.
yeah. I think what doesn't catch your eye, beside Connor Riley being there, is the production. Because when it comes to Cowboys, they look at production, and that's
Mhm.
actually a good trait to look at. And I think DJ Giddens would be a good running back to this room. But
Yeah, I mean, you look at the production and you look at film, right? I
yeah,
mean,
film.
I think like it's, to me, man, like a lot of times you people look at the name. Oh, he's not a star. I don't
Yeah,
know this guy. But I mean, the tape's not going to lie, man. And if you can play, you can freaking play.
yeah,
Even the measurable. Sometimes like all the measurable stuff and oh, his box jump was this, his shuttle cone was that. Like I understand all that stuff's important and it tests the measure of the athlete, but if you put on the tape and the guy can play, sometimes guys don't test well. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Right.
So it's just one of those things, man. But hey, okay, I ride with that. I ride with that. So you addressed running back in round 3, just like the way I did.
Yeah, I was thinking about running back in round 2, but I was like, I
Okay.
want to solidify that cornerback room. I know we could do the defensive line as well, but I
Yeah.
hopefully we can find a gym in 5th round if that's the case. But are we looking to the free agency, or maybe you do maybe like a little draft, a trade during the draft, and you find that one tech for
Yeah,
that.
you never know, man. You never know what the Cowboys could possibly do here because when you look at the draft selections that they currently have, right?
Yeah,
77 or 76 is in round 3. And then they don't have another draft pick from what I'm looking at. They don't have another draft pick till round 5. Is that correct?
yeah, round 5 because you remember they traded that 4th round for Jonathan Mingo, so
Yes. Yeah. Yes, they did. Jonathan
yeah,
Mingo. So yeah, we are talking about the wide receiver room earlier, right? And I mentioned Tolbert and I mentioned
Turpin,
Turpin and I mentioned Cooks from last year, right? Well, Cooks probably won't be back. I
yeah.
totally forgot. I forgot that they gave up a 4th round pick for Mingo
Because we don't like our 4th round picks. We just
for
we just
whatever
go
reason.
we we
Well,
find we find trait guys.
yeah. Well, now we don't have a 4th round pick. And so the Cowboys go from pick 76 in round number 3, and then they don't have another pick again until round 5 at pick 149.
Yeah,
So that's damn near almost 100 players off the board without a pick. And I would love for the Cowboys to be able to get back into round 4 or back into late round 3 or
yeah,
get another pick in the top 100, you know? And that's something that they were able to do last year. They traded back last year, of course, and they picked up an extra pick down the line. Maybe that's something in play this year where the Cowboys can try to get back into that top 100 and, get something between 76 and 149.
yeah.
Hey,
Fingers crossed.
yeah. Hey, real quickly, What are your thoughts on the Cowboys drafting a quarterback? And do you have any quarterbacks in mind? Have you looked at quarterbacks?
When it comes to quarterback, I'm looking like in the fifth round because I want to solidify those other needs. But I
Yeah.
know QB2. But some of the quarterbacks I actually looked at is like a Kyle McCord,
Mm-hmm.
Dylan Gabriel would be nice as well. Who's that other quarterback?
What's his
Brady
name?
Cook.
Rourke from
Oh yeah,
Indiana.
Kurt Rourke. That's a good one.
Rourke from Indiana. I'm seeing a lot of, kind of buzz around him, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, man. Now that Cooper Rush is gone, it's Will Greer. They might flirt and bring back Trey Lance. You never know.
yeah,
But I'm thinking the Cowboys might draft a quarterback in that fifth round, like you're saying.
yeah. I wouldn't mind it because there's some solid QB2s out there in this draft. I don't see a QB1, but you can find a solid QB2 behind. Though, and speaking of Cooper Rush, that was kind of odd to see him getting signed by the Baltimore Ravens because you usually kind of try to find a QB1 that's more similar to a QB2
Yeah,
that's similar to your QB1. Like you don't want to. I hate to say it, Cooper Rush is more of a statue quarterback, and you have
yeah.
Lamar Jackson who could run his lights.
I mean, yeah, no, you're totally right. And I don't think that's unfair to say either. I mean, we've seen what Cooper Rush is.
Yeah,
We've seen him a majority of all last season after Dak got hurt, right? And even previous before that when Dak got hurt, where he had a spell of 4 to 5 games started, right?
yeah,
I mean, dude, he's a statue. I mean, if God forbid something were to happen to Lamar Jackson, that Ravens offense would dramatically shift to a pure, stand up, immobile quarterback.
yeah,
It's such a contrast. It's stark. It's striking, right? So I don't know, man. Hey, look, I'm glad that Rush got the bag and he got a
yeah,
couple of years on his deal and he has the sweetest gig in the NFL, man. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of expectations whenever you go in as the backup quarterback. And if you do play good, then dang, you're a badass. And if you do play kind of bad, well, you're the backup, right? That's what
yep.
happens. So good on him. Hey, real quickly, another name that I saw in the quarterback mix,
Okay.
and this was something that was being bantered about. I saw this on X the other day. Jalen Milroe as a
Oh, I know that.
possible Cowboys draft selection in that round 5. What do you think about Jalen Milroe? I know Milroe has a lot to work on, his passing accuracy, namely one of them, but the athletes, just the playmaking ability and the deep ball from Jalen Milroe can be pretty good, man. He tore it up at Alabama and he played damn well the majority of the time in Bama. But when they start dissecting the tape, they start looking at your workouts, the accuracy can be an issue. But what do you think about the prospects of a Jalen Milroe as a Cowboys draft pick and a long term? Let's see what this guy got.
I wouldn't hate the Milrow pick, but like you said, there's a lot of development to that accuracy. Is like I hope they work with a lot with him because it kind of seems like trying to figure out can he be our backup quarterback or future quarterback?
Yeah.
They thought with Trey Lance. I think that's my biggest worry is the accuracy.
Mm,
But the legs, the man running the ball or throwing it deep, I'm like, yes. But the accuracy is my biggest worries because you don't want
mhm.
to be in that scenario of God forbid that gets hurt and you got a guy that's not ready to be out
Ooh.
there on the field and he's
Yeah,
throwing ducks and you don't want to be in that scenario. So
wouldn't be great. Wouldn't be
nah.
great at all, man.
So I wouldn't hate the Milrow pick. It's just like hopefully they develop and put him in some good scenarios where you don't see that those deficiencies with his inaccuracy.
True. True. I'm with you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I know we were talking about we did like a beer testing. I forgot to get a beer, so I picked one out the I picked one out the fridge.
It's
I know.
cool.
Yeah, I ended up getting a Dos Equis out of here. Just gonna keep
I
it.
got this. Let me pop this one open real quick. I just got like a regular light. This is a Youngling light lager.
Oh, those are good.
These are pretty good. I mean, they're not like the most heavy with the carbs and the calories, right? So, but they are pretty smooth. So, to you, my guy, here's a cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers, baby. Pretty solid. Pretty solid.
Absolutely. It went down the wrong. It went down the wrong. It went down the wrong pipe. No, I like those seconds. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
but Yulings
That's
are
the one
good.
you always keep in your fridge. You always have a Dos Equis available. Is that like your? That's. I think I've asked you this before, but I think that's your go-to, right?
Dos Equis, and then when it comes to the other thing, it's like a Cayman Jack or something like that.
Yeah. There we go. I
And
like to experiment with my beers and whatever I feel at the time, So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
yes,
I went to HEB today and went to get groceries and everything, and I forgot to get the beer. I was thinking to myself, what did I forget? And then when I got home after going to Goodwill, I was like, I forgot to get the beer. I can't drive 15 minutes and tell you
nah,
I'm gonna be late, so
yeah, it's
it
all
is
good,
what it
bro.
is.
Don't worry about it, man. It's all good. That's a old reliable right there. You know what I mean?
Uh,
That's a solid veteran off the bench, gonna come in and give you 10 points, gonna get a few rebounds, maybe pick up 3 fouls. But that's a good, reliable beer right there for sure.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think of the player that perfect describes, but yeah, Dos Equis is definitely one of that coming off the bench.
It's good, man. It's a solid veteran. Solid veteran. Has a couple of rings maybe in the last couple of years of its career. Solid, bro.
Oh, it's a Harrison Barnes. That's what a Dos Equis is. It's a Harrison
Yeah,
Barnes.
yeah, it's the Harrison Barnes of beers. It's
Yeah.
reliable, it's solid. You can count on it to put up some points.
Yeah, absolutely. And it got championship
Yeah,
pedigree in there. So
exactly, bro.
absolutely. Hey, I appreciate you, bro, for being on the show. We
Oh,
definitely
dude, always, man.
yeah, I definitely get you back on before the draft. Just
Let's
talk
do
about
it. Let's run it back. Let's run it back either before the draft or we could run it back post draft and we could break it down that way. Whichever way you want to roll with it. I'm down, man. Just hit me up. You know what it is.
I got you. Before I let you go, where can they check out the Sunday Sports Rush and
Yeah.
where they also can give you a follow as well?
Sure, man. So I'm on X. Actually, all my social medias. You can follow me at Sir Edward James. That's X. That's Insta. That is that's X Insta. That's TikTok, right? You can follow my Facebook. I do have a Facebook page. Just search my name, James Espinosa. It'll pop up. You'll see it. And then, of course, my radio show. It's Sundays here in Corpus on News Talk KEYS 1440 AM 987 FM. We are online 1440keys.com live, and then we also have an app 1440keys.com so you can listen that way. And then we do podcast our show for those who don't catch it live. It's on Spotify. Just search Sunday Sports Rush. Give us a follow. Promise if you guys just give us a listen, I think you guys would enjoy the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I catch y'all. I try to catch y'all show most every Sunday, even when I'm doing deliveries or something like that. I
Oh, I
got it.
appreciate that,
I
man.
got it on volume and stuff. Make sure I hear y'all's podcast in this, as well as the radio show as well. If I don't catch it, I check it on Spotify for sure.
Well,
But
well, thank you. I appreciate that, Aaron. Always, baby, always.
yes, sir. This has been Tacos and Touchdowns. Y'all have a good one. And we'll post the show on YouTube. I messed up and didn't have it on YouTube, but it'll be back on there on Friday. Y'all have a good one.